and that is that I think this conversation and actually this example demonstrate why data should be a public good and not a private good. And so the idea, data is not that woman, that in your example, this is not her data. It's data about her. And data about you is not yours. It's data about you. And the fact that people treat it as their own, as if, it's like I sit here, I have a lot of observations about you. It's not yours, it's my observations. I will write it down maybe, and maybe do things with that. And the same thing happens by the physician, and by the platforms, and by your bank, officers, and by police officers. And there is a lot of data, and the accumulative power of data is what we can do with it as a society. Privacy is an exception for that, but it should be controlled as an exception. This is not the rule. It's not a property right in data. And I think that is where some of the mistakes that we're making in public policy, that we move to a way of treating data as if it's something that we own and control and should be controlled. I don't think that any of us, behind a veil of ignorance, would like to decide what will be done down the road with any data that is about us. Nonetheless, we don't want to restrict ourselves with the data that we know about others, that we use in gossip, that we use in, managing our life, that we use in our business. So this is not part of the social contract. Anyway, this is more important nowadays because of the reasons that you mentioned, Shelley. And I think that is the way in which we now have so much data that could be processed by machines, that if it is not available, it would exclude people. And it would harm them because they will not be part of the model that the machine is learning. And that would actually create some harmful consequences to them. And therefore, I think that, more than ever, it is important the data would be inclusive and would be treated as a public good. And here I also agree with what Peter was saying, for the purpose of anti-scientific movements, I think more data is better. We don't need to agree on the scientific results, but in order to reach consensus, we have to have more data in order to test it. This is the academic model. It has been working for hundreds of years, and it could work now. This is not the first time in history that there is anti-scientific movement, right? There were dark ages, but there was still science, right? And I think the academic model is, provide me with the data, I will test you on your theory, and I will be able to show that you're wrong. On the point that you're asking about the vetted researchers and the DSA, just to clarify the point, what the Europeans are suggesting that is really innovative is to say, again, the data is not yours. You're the platform where we all our activities take place. And even in a commercial setting, we don't think that even if it is your business and you want to determine in your terms of use, what type of uses could be done with the data, for legitimate purposes, it is not for you to decide unilaterally. We have to decide about this as a society. So we create a procedure where a researcher can actually come and apply and ask for the data. We didn't have that procedure until the DSA. We actually don't have this procedure anywhere in the world yet. And I think it's an interesting model. The vetted researchers are required here because I can also, as a competitor, like if I'm high Q, I can come to LinkedIn and I'm their competitors, and I would say, I want to research your platform, for my own competitive advantage. That is where it would be legitimate to LinkedIn maybe to say, excuse me now, we invested in it, we want to get a return. So we have to have some procedure where we can identify who is a legitimate researcher. And a vetted researcher, and here I agree with you that the current the definition is too narrow. It is too narrow in the sense that it requires that you will be affiliated with a recognized institution, It does include investigative journalists. It does include researchers from civil society, but it doesn't include independent researchers. And I think that could be a problem because of how we. But they should be. I think. But generally speaking, you have to authorize a researcher and make sure that this is done for a purpose, that it is indeed a public purpose.
Amir?
Yes,